Hi, it's John Whitehead, and welcome to this week's version of my weekly video blog post. This past week, I was working with a client in Vancouver where I'm using an approach based on Marshall Goldsmith's stakeholder-centered coaching. This is a process where you get the client to do a 360-degree assessment of one sort or another. I personally love to use the Leadership Practices Inventory 360, which is based on Kouzes and Parsons' The Leadership Challenge. And after that, they've done the assessment, they go back and choose 4 to 5 people that were involved in that process as stakeholders. Once they've determined a couple of areas where they would like to work on in terms of their leadership skill sets or their executive skill sets, and this often is taken from the gaps that show up in that 360 process, then they'll go to those 4 stakeholders and ask them for ideas and suggestions on how they may improve, work on, sort out those gaps that they may have found and that they have identified as things that they want to work on. Once they have done that, then they'll come back to me as a coach, and together we'll work out a plan of action. They'll come up with some solutions, some ideas. We'll put some timelines in place, and for the next few weeks, they'll work on them. And then they go back about those 4 individuals that they asked to help out and ask them, first of all, thank them for participating, but also ask for any changes or adjustments that they've seen, improvements that they have seen, and then again ask them for a couple more ideas. And this goes on for several months. And what was interesting was what this client that I'm talking about, one of the things he had identified was being able to speak up in groups. It's about improving his executive presence, which is something that his leader identified as a shift that he would like to see this person make. And when he went to his raters, the message was definitely there as a theme in ideas and ways that he could speak forward. And one of those things that came out was being more clear, bringing clarity to the message he was giving to those that report directly to him. This wasn't a direct report that gave him this idea, it was a peer. But the peer had observed him and said to him that maybe what you need to do is be a bit more clear. You often make too many assumptions. Now, this is this client of mine. This was like a light bulb going off for him, that he could recognize, that he recognized that once he was being given this advice. And so he came back to me, and together we worked on a plan, took that a piece of information, some other pieces of information, and put together a plan. And one of the things I said to him was, and one of the things that we're talking about was this idea of, as a leader, we often have to really make sure that we're being very clear with what our expectations are. If we're asking our direct reports to complete a task, to do a project, whatever it is, that we have to really make sure that we're being clear with their expectations. And one way to do that, of course, is to ask the other person to repeat back, or to you could make to ask them. So was that clear? Have you got any questions? Or another way of doing that, of course, is going up to them and saying, how do you think you would do this project? Or how do you think you would do this task? And see what they say. And often, I think the message can be there is if they're going to get the end result, and the end result is what you want, and it's the end result that you need, don't worry about so much about how they're going to do it. How they're going to do it may not be exactly how you would do it, but the bottom line is that it gets done. So by going to them and asking them, so what's your idea? Or do you have some thoughts on how this task can be completed? And if you're not sure about what they're saying, you can always ask it. You can always say, or ask them, okay, that sounds great. Is there any other options there? Is there any other ways we could come at this? And again, trying to get them to come up with an idea or a solution. And by doing that, you get to know, you get a really good understanding whether they're clear. You get very good understanding that your expectations are being met because the end result is there. So again, thank you for your time today. If you've got any comments about these videos, or you have a question for me, or something you'd like me to address, feel free to place it in the comment section, send me an email. I'd be happy to respond to you. So thank you for listening to me today. It's John Whitehead. Have a great week.